I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's in my top 3 manga of all time and my top 5 anime of all time. When the anime was airing the Polnareff vs Vanilla Ice fight, I was so invested in what was happening, I just could not wait for more episodes and decided to read the rest of part 3, and the rest was history from there. Coincidentally, this was also around the time I was getting into fighting games, and being a kid with no money, I emulated a bunch of old fighters on emulators. This is where I was first introduced to Heritage for the Future, the JoJo Capcom fighting game. A vivid memory I have of this game is playing the story mode and getting spoiled that Joseph gets his blood sucked by Dio in his special intro versus Jotaro. I really thought he was dead. I was so upset. Oh snap, I also forgot. My favorite character, Benimaru, is in this game. After I got my fill of this game, I picked up any other JoJo game I could get my hands on to feed my hunger for more bizarre adventures. That's what led me to 2013's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, All-Star Battle. For a fledgling JoJo fan, All-Star Battle had it all. A bunch of characters from every part, including the new at the time, JoJo, unique gameplay styles for each character, and references. Oh my god, the references. No other JoJo game has anything on the amount of references, callbacks, and fan service this game has. Yup, it had everything a JoJo fan could want, except there was one small little problem. The gameplay. On release, the game was plagued with bugs. Infinite, weird interactions, characters that just did not work. All-Star Battle Mode, one of the game's main modes, was this weird, mobile-esque, single-player thing where you had to search to fight characters to unlock costumes, colors, taunts, and stuff. There was an energy bar, and it was random, and you could pay for items to make the battles easier, and some battles were tougher than others, so you would need more energy. It was a mess. And to top it all off, the crown on top of this disaster, 30 frames per second. Some of you might not know why it's such a cardinal sin for a fighting game to be 30 frames per second, so I'll try to explain it as simply as I can. The higher the frame rate, the faster a game will run. For most games, 60 frames per second is the standard, though there are exceptions. Fighting games are never the exception. 60 FPS is a requirement for a smooth, enjoyable experience. Anything less would feel sluggish, and look no further than All-Star Battle as an example. The game was developed by CyberConnect 2, a developer not known for putting out quality traditional fighters. So when they tried to make one, it was nothing short of a dumpster fire. Add on to that the complete lack of balance, and you've got a joke of a game. To their credit though, they did patch the game up to be playable for the North American release, and they added, get this, an arcade mode. Innovative stuff, I know. The DLC for this game was bizarre too. Characters like Iggy, Lisa, and Kira, the main villain of Part 4, were DLC. Mind you, cheap DLC at only $2 a pop, but DLC nonetheless. And even if you bought them, you didn't get the costumes that they came with. You had to play All-Star Battle Mode, making it even worse. Despite all of the negatives, All-Star Battle is still a guilty pleasure of mine. It's one of the only games I've went out of my way to get the Platinum Trophy for. Even with all of the jank, people have still played this game, and it got a couple of EVO side tournaments, which is definitely more than it deserved, and it just shows that no fighter can truly be dead if two people are willing to play. After All-Star Battle, JoJo would get another fighting game, but this time it would be an arena fighter with its own original story. Eyes of Heaven. Eyes of Heaven is okay for what it is, but nothing special. It was, however, the game that got me to buy a PS4. Look, I even imported a copy and everything. I couldn't understand anything, but the gameplay was fun enough to hold your interest for a little bit. Actually, now that I think about it, these two games, All-Star Battle and Eyes of Heaven, have heavily influenced this channel greatly. I used to upload gameplay clips using the PS4 share feature since it was the hot new thing at the time, and Eyes of Heaven is a pretty glitchy game, so if something cool happened, I would upload it. All of these videos except one are now private, and the one that you can view happens to be my most viewed video because of filthy acts at a reasonable price. It was the first video I edited for myself, if you know what I mean, and while it's nothing special, if I didn't make it, I don't know if I would still be making content 6 years later. It's been 6 years since I last played All-Star Battle, and I really stopped caring about JoJo after the Part 5 anime ended, which is why when the trailer for All-Star Battle R dropped, I wasn't really crazy about it. Yes, I did enjoy the game back then, but I didn't really want to play another fighter with KOF and Lumina on my plate, so I just wrote it off as a cash grab remaster with assists thrown in, and didn't think twice. That was until the game came out and I had $50 burning a hole in my pocket. I was guaranteed to at least have some fun, and you know what? I wanted to play a Speedwagon, so I bought the game, popped it in my PS4, and I was immediately having fun. The first thing I noticed was the game was in 60 FPS and it felt good. Then I started messing around with some of my old favorites like Johnathan, Dio, Bao, and Kira, finding new combos, new tech, and new mechanics. Almost every character has been changed in some way. Part 3 Dio, for example, had half of his moveset reworked and plays completely differently now. The combo system was also completely reworked. It's much more coherent and feels like some actual thought went into it, in contrast with the original release. The new characters like Diego, Yukako, and Speedwagon fit right in with the original cast and are given the same love and care as the rest of the roster. All of the previous DLC is now included, with more DLC on the way. In addition, an assist system was added to spice up combat. Some assists have more uses than others. Some can be direct attackers, while others can put down traps or act as a shield. It adds a nice layer on top of the gameplay without feeling like a complete afterthought like I initially assumed. Everything can now be unlocked in single player or with gold you get for playing other modes, which is great. No more mobile microtransactions. The big negative here is the online. It is not up to modern standards. It should be rollback netcode, but we're dealing with Bandai Namco here. They're allergic to having good online in their games. Just look at Tekken and Soul Calibur for examples. Something I have to mention is a stage and character were cut from the game. This is due to them being a huge Part 6 spoiler, and as of recording, the Part 6 anime is not done yet. Thankfully, this character and stage will be added as free DLC, so kudos to them. Something that bothers me specifically are the voice actor changes. When All-Star Battle was in development, the anime was only up to Part 2, so not every character had their anime VA, most notable examples being Kakyoin and Pucci. I'd gotten so used to those voices, the new ones just sound weird, and the new ones aren't always better. Like Dio's "Worry" is much better in the original. Most of All-Star Battle R's new content is recycled from Eyes of Heaven. Some might have a problem with that, but I don't mind it, and in my opinion, the content works better here because it's given more time to breathe. In Eyes of Heaven, everything had to be faster, because it was an arena fighter. Take Speedwagon Super for example. It's the same as in Eyes of Heaven, but they were able to touch it up and it works much better here. And look, they even got to add a reference to the end of it. However, the roster is still missing a few key characters. Abakio and Weather Report come to mind, both critical members of their main teams, and not having them in the game just feels strange. I haven't read Part 8 yet, but I was expecting at least one newcomer now that it's done, but hey, I guess that's what DLC is for. Being 60 FPS, the gameplay is much smoother, like I mentioned before. All of the characters have something that make them unique, which is something that's not easy to pull off in a game with this many characters. I can best describe the gameplay as a weird Street Fighter with anime influence, but it's definitely Kusoge. Combos are easy to do, but there's still enough depth to pull off some scummy stuff. Like Sheer Heart Attack, for example, stays true to the source material and tracks you to the ends of the earth. Attention to detail like that is why I love All-Star Battle, and I love All-Star Battle R. And now, with the improved gameplay, you can actually enjoy the game part 2. Will All-Star Battle R be some big tournament game and have huge prize pools? No, the game won't light the world on fire. But for JoJo fans, it's a great time, and for fighting game fans, it's a good piece of casual fun with abilities and movesets you won't find anywhere else. All-Star Battle R surpasses its original by refining the gameplay and adding a bunch of content, making it a definitive JoJo experience. All-Star Battle R is the ultimate JoJo game. I hope you enjoyed the video. What started as a normal review turned into something a little bit more personal than I expected. I never really realized how much All-Star Battle and Eyes of Heaven influenced me, yet here we are. It's almost like fate itself aligned and made me make another JoJo's video. This was a nice little trip down memory lane for me, and I hope you got something from it. All-Star Battle is definitely worth buying if you're a JoJo fan, and if you're a fighting game fan and you like JoJo, I would say check it out. But if you don't know anything about it, I would say wait for a sale or just skip it. Anyway, like always, have a great day, and... Get back, JoJo!